Hello everyone, my name is Mattia Vicentini from Our Farm Project, and today I want to talk about weeds. Weeds have a very bad reputation since a very long time, and people spend a lot of time pulling up weeds and plowing the fields and so on. So I want to cast a new light on this topic, and we shouldn't even refer to them as weeds in a bad way, because what they actually are, they are a regenerative mechanism from nature. They are a reparative mechanism from nature. So if we hold on a second and we walk in the woods, in a forest, there aren't many weeds growing around there, right? There are big trees casting a lot of shade, so there isn't much sun available for the weeds, and plus the soil is very rich. The soil has a very thick layer of humus. You know, when you walk into the bush, you're walking on organic material, on something crunchy. It's not bare soil. Nature really dislikes bare soil. So what we try to do again in permaculture is to copy these lessons, these behaviors from nature, and try to bring them in our lifestyle, in our farms and so on, in our gardens. So when we talk about weeds, we can see that every time we go there and pull out the weeds or plow the fields and stuff, we are setting really a place for nature to do its thing. Is a regenerative thing. Nature always wants to regenerate, moves toward balance. So for example, let's say here we have our bare soil garden or our newly plowed field. Or we can even find a more natural instance where maybe there has been a flood from the river. The river has flooded all the place and brought away all the vegetation and stuff. So we have bare, compacted soil. So if we do this in our garden, in our farm, as soon as we do this, weeds will start to germinate. Because in a square meter of bare soil, there could be up to 2,000 seeds ready to germinate as soon as they see sunlight. Weeds will start to germinate. Nature wants to cover this soil. And so, in summer they will grow, in winter they will die, and they will act as a mulch. And then they will grow again. Maybe also different kinds, longer, or vines. Everything possible to cover the soil and make mulch on site. And this is also what we try to do in permaculture. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. Anyway, so bear with me. Again, every year that goes on, more weeds grow. And more mulch is going to cover that bare soil at the beginning. While we move on, what we are seeing here is a succession stages. Clearly nature moves through this process in stages. And every stage carries with it a different ecology, so to speak. Not really different, but it calls in for different microorganisms, bacteria or rodents or birds, bugs. Everything has a purpose, everything has a specific function. And each element supports more functions, as in permaculture we try to do. So, birds moving in, bugs, and maybe rodents making, little dens underground, and a lot of things going on here. And what they do is they bring you seeds. Seeds from other bushes or trees and so on. And what happens is often pioneer plants are brought in. By seeds, by birds or by rodents. Pioneer plants depending on which climate we are in. They could be acacias, albizzias, or ailanthus, honey locust, black locust. I mean, there are many. It depends on our climate. The point is that they are pioneer plants. They don't require anything. Yeah, you know, they're not fussy about soil, about water condition, about soil exposure. So they will grow. Even the soil is on its way to regeneration. So this is our acacia growing. Actually, it germinated here. Let's say. The conditions weren't right here to germinate the acacias, for example. The acacias growing on, they move forward the regeneration stages. They bring in maybe even more bugs, even different birds, different rodents, and they start to shed even more organic materials on the topsoil. So nature is moving towards that bush, very thick layer of humus, you know, in its own way, by growing weeds and vines that grow crazy, or pioneer trees. Now the conditions are getting better and better. This layer is getting thicker, and because, as I said, maybe more rodents, more microorganisms, more birds moving in to nest and so on, they drop other seeds that could be no more of pioneer trees or plants, but from long-term trees that could be like oaks, or, you know, walnuts, or just as an example. So here there is the little oak germination, and then it will grow up and it will grow up slowly, of course, and it will cast so much shade, so less wheat will grow. And now the soil, the topsoil, is opposite than what it was before. Now is probably like a sponge, thick. So many processes going on here compared to this, the bare one. Sorry, let's say this was the bare one, the very start. Okay, these stages you can see them around if you look. Where they cut the bushes, you can see some stages. Where they deforested areas on the hills or whatever, you can see these stages going on. You can see where they plow, these things going on. And everything like has a limited life, so to speak. Pioneer trees don't last so long. They last relatively short. Like, I don't know, anywhere between 5 to 40 years maybe, depending on the condition, of course. But usually you don't see them more than 20 years around, because their purpose is only to support many other life cycles and organisms and so on, and enrich that soil. Pioneer trees don't like so much fertile soil, because they are adapted as pioneer in growing in very harsh conditions, improve the soil, and then their job is done. And it's the same story for many kinds of weeds. These kinds of weeds that will grow here, you won't find them around here. The stages have moved forward, and the soil has improved, and the ecology has moved in a different direction. So there is no need anymore for this. Maybe there will be some, but it's not the prevailing biomass, you know what I mean? Okay, now that we said that, this is the role of the weeds, so to speak. But again, it's a regenerative mechanism. Nature is always moving forward towards this place, okay? So every time we go in the garden and we pull the weeds out, you know, we bring it back. And nature will move forward again. Every time we bring it back, nature will move forward. And there is no way, I can assure you that we can win this fight or this battle. There is no way we should and we can battle this force. This is an incredibly powerful force, which is even within us. So it makes totally sense to move in line with it and find a different way to address this situation, which is not a problem actually. Nature always wants to move in this direction. So a clever thing to do that we try to do and we learn to do is to substitute these plants with something that can be useful for us. It's just a little shortcut. We try to stay in line with nature, and then we try to take a little shortcut, so to speak, and we try to replace the weeds that nature would use, or the vines that nature would use. We try to replace them with something that can be also of our use. Instead of using whichever vine is there, we may replace it with a passion fruit, for example, no? Or the ground covers that are used with, we can replace with mint or strawberries or clover, for bugs, whatever. The point is that we need to understand and support natural processes, because we can't fight this. It doesn't matter what we spray, even people spraying herbicide and crazy chemical stuff, things grow back not long afterwards. Even in a place like Chernobyl, where there was the radioactive disaster, take a look at how it looks now. I mean, it doesn't matter what we do to it, nature will come back. So it makes sense to move with it, to stick to that force for the greater benefit for everybody and everything. So we tried, as I was saying, to take a shortcut and replace these weeds with something that can be useful also for us. And the other thing that nature clearly wants to do, absolutely, is to cover the soil. This is a fact. Nature, whichever way it wants to keep the soil covered. So this is another thing that we try to do in permaculture. We always mulch the soil, whether it's with cotton bed sheets or cardboard or green cover like cowpeas or clover or strawberries. We keep that soil covered. So we allow to have all these decomposition processes and these incredible life cycles that are underground. We try to support it from the very beginning. So by heavily mulching, we can already limit the amount of weeds to grow, and we can try to replace them possibly in a clever way with things that are useful for us and for the microorganisms around and so on. Also, from the weeds that grow in our fields, we can learn a lot. If the soil is very compacted, very hard, we will see weeds with a big taproot that nature wants to break that hard pan, the clay layers. Or if we have very loose soils, like after plowing for 30 years, if you pick the soil, it's not even sand, it's like dust flying away. So in the clay pan, we will see roots like this, like a dandelion or a chicory. In the loose one, instead, there will be like plants. I can just recall now the vetiver grass, which have those root systems that look like a bag. They are so thin, the roots, like hair, and they are very extensive. Have you ever pulled out a big clump of, like a big weed with a big clump of roots? It's like a bag to hold the soil in place. So nature is really trying to move forward, with different tools, different weeds for different soils. So by reading the weeds that are growing around us, we can even learn more about the soil and maybe the microbiology that is going on there, and so on. So I hope you have a new outlook on weeds, and that from today you will stop calling them weeds. And they are very useful. Remember that it's nature's way to regenerate. damaged soils. And because all around us we keep damaging the soil, is plenty of weeds. We can see them all over the place. Okay, thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you the next time.